I'm giving this for Sebastian Rahtz, who's the technical director of CLAROS. He's an expert. I'm only an archaeologist. I can explain the vision behind CLAROS, and I can explain how it relates to digital cultural heritage. Dominic Oldman will be speaking after me, and he's going to explain the technology, and he will show you how we've already begun linking our data. I showed the data cloud yesterday. I think the people who are in the audience now are extremely familiar with it. They probably also know that it's a relatively new concept, the linking of the data. And that's why we need to take a lot of time to explain it to our colleagues. In the beginning, which was about 2008, this cloud was really quite small. When we began the CLAROS pilot in 2008, it's small, but it's grown very swiftly. In fact, it has grown so swiftly that it's difficult to have an up-to-date visualization. This one is about a year old. Dominic has adapted it to highlight the clusters of heritage-related data, and I've adapted it further to show the position of his project, Research Space. While his project is being generously funded by the Mellon Foundation, ours received small startup grants from the University of Oxford's John Fell Fund between the years 2008 and 2011. Today, John Fell is considered the father of the Oxford University Press. Over centuries, the press has made the name of Oxford a global brand name. Today, this Fell Fund is supporting research within the university. You can't read, but I will tell you what the slide says. What exactly was CLAROS? What is it? It was a pilot. It brought together academic content providers and technical experts in some of Europe's top research centers. These were my colleagues, and they were willing to open and link and share their data. We were classical archaeologists. We were studying ancient Greece and Rome. Classical archaeology is a science-based discipline, and it has been documented electronically for nearly 4 decades. It's been documented in highly structured relational databases. Our material was ideal for electronic documentation. It was very plentiful, and it had been studied for centuries. We also had extensive human networks. They were in place, and we had internationally accepted vocabularies. In 2011, CLAROS had about 1 million records and images from more than 10 contributing research centers in 6 European countries. From 2012, when I launched the Cultural Heritage Program that we talked about yesterday, I wanted to explore the potential of linking data in Asia. I was well aware that the international standards had been developed largely by Americans and Northern Europeans, and I wanted to see how well they worked for the East and how they could be made better, more useful through a collaboration. And it's important for you to keep in mind that CLAROS worked with academic research centers, centers that had documented Western culture in collections held around the world. Having successfully brought them together, we added several thousand records about Eastern culture from the Department of Eastern Art in the University of Oxford's Ashmolean Museum. This was a test. When these records and images were added easily and swiftly, we knew that we had a solid platform for digital cultural heritage. How exactly did we do it? With great difficulty, I think, is the answer. Not being a technical expert, I will not attempt to explain, but I can certainly tell you that it was challenging work because these were very early days. The diagram dates from about 2010, and it shows 4 of our original relational databases, 2 in Oxford, 1 in Cologne, and the other in Paris. All of our relational data sets were silos. To open them, to free our data, they needed to be linked so that information could be shared. To do this, we used the CRM ontology, which is highlighted in red. I think most of you know that the CDOC CRM developed from a UNESCO imperative nearly 20 years ago, and it's developed into an ISO registered ontology about 10 years ago. This ontology will work well for the diverse, multidisciplinary cultural heritage community. It gives us an ability to collaborate digitally that, to my knowledge, the scientific community does not yet have. So we have a terrific asset. We just tend not to know it. And I hope this will make Sebastian smile. It's an old slide telling us about how the approaches to documentation and dissemination have changed. I'm happy to say that ours is the last one on the list, the best one, which has no end. I have added to his slide something I think that is very important for you all to keep in mind. We do not alter anyone's data in any way. We do not alter anyone's website in any way. We do not take your data. You keep your data. You keep your IPR. It's somehow very hard for people to believe that this can be true, but I assure you that it is. Returning to the website, as I mentioned yesterday, the global aspirations are reflected in the top banner of the website, with the art of the East on the right and the West on the left. CLAROS's aspiration to be accessible globally is also reflected in the Google Translate, and I showed this slide yesterday. We enable it to show to the world that we really do want to be accessible. The larger images on the home page show that CLAROS has objects, it has sites, it has monuments, and it has historical photographs. All of these images on the home page come from the Ashmolean Museum because CLAROS is a University of Oxford pilot. 4 years ago, when we launched CLAROS, we searched by clicking on one of the larger images. For this example, I take the antiquarian photographs. If you click on that, you come to a small selection This is all very traditional. You click on one and you get more information in a predictable way. I've chosen the photographs for a very good reason, because they have special value for heritage conservation, which hasn't really been recognized properly, and because the sample data from the American Institute of Indian Studies that we took for a pilot to show you are all the antiquarian photographs. And we mentioned yesterday that Sebastian and Dominic were in Delhi in April, and they prepared the sample. I should also tell you that even without that sample, CLAROS has had in 2011 more than 30,000 historical photographs. So there's already a big body of information. Now, another way of searching uses what we called the CLAROS Explorer. In 2011, it was quite breathtaking. People really were very surprised that they could see objects and photographs and sites and maps and timetables. They could see these all together, and they could see data from different sites together, and then they could go directly to a parent database and get full and comprehensive information. For this example, I chose 600 to 300 BC to show the spread of Greek painted pottery, a subject that I have studied for a very long time. Today, this sort of search looks, to some of us, very old-fashioned. It looks really quite clunky. The Explorer was a stopgap. It was a way of trying to coerce the commercial Microsoft Active Server pages to cope in this new open source linked data environment. But even in 2011, we already had real open data, and that is thanks entirely to Sebastian Rahtz and Alexander Dutton, who is also with us today. I have selected places because once you have the geo coordinates, you can zoom into a precise site. And for the purpose of this meeting, where we are showcasing Udaipur as a case study, I've naturally selected Udaipur, which brings up a few examples of objects in the Ashmolean Museum. Remember, this is a pilot, and it only has sample data, but it shows you how the system works. And when you click on an object, you get a page that looks like this. For the non-technical person, this looks pretty nerdy, and it can put people off. And what Research Space has done is totally transform how we can now search. It's important to bear in mind, Research Space has developed largely in the museum community, whereas CLAROS has developed in the academic community. And what Dominic Oldman and I would like to do is to show that by bringing these two groups together, by bringing the sort of heritage community together and the academic research community together, that we can provide a very sound collaborative platform, and we can show the potential that it has for cultural heritage. In 2011, when we launched CLAROS, I said, in the presence of the Chancellor of the University and in the presence of Professor Trefethen and others, I boldly said at the close, this is only the beginning. And I think they all thought, she's mad. But I was already looking to Asia. I was already looking to digital cultural heritage India. And Dominic is now going to show you that the future is here.